The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Had a few hours overtime today that I volunteered for, so I can't go whining about it or anything. Next weekend is Labor Day weekend, and I think after all the running around I've done over the last couple of weeks, which is going to probably culminate in a lot of running around this week, I'm probably going to insist on taking Labor Day weekend off if the overtime is voluntary. Plus, I don't see the numbers adding up. Plus, work-life balance for me has been in the toilet lately. It's just, ugh. All but non-existent. You gotta call it somewhere. It's cool to have more money, but not at the expense of, well, you know. The more fun things in life, yeah. Well, there's a lot there's a lot of fun stuff out there that money can purchase, but money can't buy happiness. Okay, time to stop getting so philosophical. So the next thing we need to do, if I can say anything correctly today, moving beyond the launch of Monolith, declutter. The very thing that coming to this place was supposed to be about, and it's still not done. Almost to September since moving up here, and there's still more that I can do. So there's a couple options that I have available. Either go around like I'm doing chores and clean the house that way, or declutter by putting stuff in these computers, darn it. Every one of these, I think, is missing at least one key part that keeps them from working, except the Delosaurus. That just sucks. But the decluttering can continue through every single one of these things being, yeah, well, stop doing the thing with the foot, you know. They're computers, not gas pedals. But every single one of these systems in the cutesy little family of computers needs something to get working again. It represents about 15 years of technological advancement, too. The first one, as you can guess, is Tuxedo. The other envelope from Newegg that I didn't talk about last time was this. A StarTech 6 to 8 pin PCI Express adapter, which will continue Tuxedo's hack job situation nowadays. Yeah, this isn't going to go... This is what's going to get the Kepler card back in service in a very hack job manner. Yeah, I don't recommend using adapters to make up for power deficiencies in a system. And I think I'm about to find out why this is such a bad idea. The last time I had something like this, I was using Molex splitters. I overloaded the power supply and got restarts and other assorted nonsense. But this is just because the power supply in Tuxedo, the 610 watt, has two 6 pins, no 8 pins. So, yeah, this is just an electrical conversion. I hope it's not as bad as the Molex splitters I used back in the Silver Bullets era, when the power supply was not inefficient, but inadequate. Anyways, yeah, there's what we have to play with here. So I think the extra 2 pins are grounds, but if the gauge of the wire doesn't screw everything up, oh man, why do I do this stuff? Blech, the hack job results. I still think this is a stupid idea. While the video card slot was empty, I also took the liberties of popping the watch battery and shorting the CMOS reset. Wipe away the remaining BIOS traces of all that overclocking from... Yeah, right, this thing is messed up. At this point, we're just trying to find out how we're going to kill this thing and replace it with something else. I do have some ideas for that we'll discuss at some point later on. But for now, let's see how much it freaks out when it loads up and... I'm NVIDIA now! This is the part where the computer goes nuts, freezes, or whatever. Oh, I'm in video now! What have you done to me? Plus, the CMOS has been blanked. Gotta put down the camera because I only have 2 arms. Let's put it on HDMI 3. If it doesn't freeze in the BIOS with a freshly reset CMOS. Oh, look at that! The original boot screen! Oh no! A post error occurred! Do the normal boot, you piece of crap. CMOS checksum error! No, really? Shut up. The last known good probably has overclocking crap still in it. No, of course I shorted the battery on that thing. Let me into the BIOS, you piece of crap. 333, onboard acceleration, USB 3, power 3X, SATA 3, SATA, whatever. I gotta make the picky people happy. Now, hope this doesn't freeze up while I'm setting the BIOS back up, and for Pete's sake, this is going through the NVIDIA card already, so that part works. Let's turn off the onboard video. Windows instantly crashed and restarted, and now it's in generic mode. And I don't have a mouse. Did it just freeze? Oh no, the start menu still opens up. It even has the default weather for Washington, D.C. Ooh, AMD Gaming Evolved. That is going away right now. Why don't I have a mouse? Whatever. We did it! This machine is now NVIDIA'd, or GeForced, or whatever you want to insert as a verb here. 30 to 60 FPS on Unigine Valley Extreme HD, which is half the performance of Monolith, which is right in line with the NovaBench results. So the folks are like, well, you know, NovaBench isn't really all that great of a benchmark. Adaptive VSync is turned on though, so it is shutting off all the power at 60 FPS if it can cap. But there's definitely more of an FPS variance on this system than its successor. Cool! Wonder if it's gonna freeze if I leave it running long enough. Okay, that's it. Unigine Valley Extreme HD benchmark showdown between Tuxedo and Monolith. Go! Actually, we should turn off adaptive VSync on these machines before we reset to default. Let's set the NVIDIA control panel back to default settings on everything, which will mean turning off adaptive VSync. And yeah, let's try that again. Because I think in the easier scenes, even Tuxedo can manage over 60 frames a second. Take 2. This will be no contest, of course. Monolith is going to crush Tuxedo, but the question is, by how much? Tuxedo! Here's the results. Here's the numbers right there. Average frames 38.2, score 1598. The range was from 17.5 to 76.2 for the Phenom 2 and the GeForce 760 with that power adapter. Man, I just can't believe I'm using these power adapters, you know, these dongles and these things like that. I just have bad memories from the Molex days. Alright, we're going to shut down Tuxedo for now if there's no Windows updates, and then go back to Monolith and do the exact same thing. Just gotta remember to turn off adaptive VSync, although quite frankly, Monolith would crush Tuxedo even with the... Monolith would crush Tuxedo even if it was capped at 60 FPS. There we go. The thing I liked the most about the round with Tuxedo is that it didn't freeze. So I reset the CMOS, and I turned off the devices I wasn't going to use. No overclocking or any fiddling with the North Bridge or South Bridge, and it even did Unigine Valley, struggled with it a bit too, without any freezing. That's a good sign. Let's continue. Oh man, this isn't even going to be close. 60, 60, 60, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, oh look at it. Whoa! The sky scene, 120 frames a second. It's almost worth it to get a 120 hertz TV now. Woohoo! Maybe in a couple of years, man. Alright, let's start the benchmark. Woohoo! It's doing doing exactly what I want it to do. 67.4 frames per second on average, 2820 for the score this time, and at minimum 30-ish, 29.9 to 131. Of course, I'll turn the adaptive VSync back on to cap that at 60, which is what the television can display. But good stuff. This machine's doing what I want it to do. And we're not even talking about overclocking, which will require another motherboard. So those of you that are still mad at me for K chip in non-K board, whatever. $20 for an extra 600 megahertz, it's been more than worth it. The next machine to revive as part of the nerd decluttering for the Great Sift is that a lawnmower I hear? It's almost sunset! Apparently, this is a popular time to mow your lawn. I'm not going to look out the window, because if I did, I'd probably see some guy on a ride-on or something like that, with his wife glaring at him, because this was on his to-do list sometime today, all day, and he's finally getting to it when today's almost over. Anywho, Core 2 Duo! This thing, I was running Linux on it earlier. Yeah, just needs a power supply. And the big thing with this is I want the R6850, this Radeon card, to go into this machine. It takes one 6-pin header. Fortunately, even though both the PC power and cooling supplies are now back in use, I have a non-PC power and cooling supply with the plugs to support this thing properly. Let's hook it up. The Antec True Power 480. It's old, it's hideous, it's ugly, it's limited wattage-wise, it's limited with the number of plugs on each channel. It doesn't even have any kind of tubing or hose or whatever for the wires. So it's spaghetti, multicolored blah blah going every which way. But it has two headers for 6-pin cards, like the old Radeon R6. Does it work? If it does, just add Linux. Funny how the cable I didn't use for Monolith is now running the Silver Bullet's main SSD. Total overkill. But one of the crap blue cables from Monoprice is running the one and only optical drive that still works because the SATA connector, connector on optical drive number 2 is out of commission. So, I'm going to stop hitting the case here. Double drives are now a thing of the past. I remember when it was cool that you had a CD burner and a DVD-ROM back when I first went off to college. But now, double optical drives. Relic from days gone by. If this works, you might as well have a big red sticker on it that says, just add Linux. Well, it sort of works. It's the computer that turns itself on and off all by itself. But doesn't actually post. We gotta check those connections again. Well, it's a nearly 10-year-old system. You trying to tell me that 480 watts max can't power a Core 2 Duo? I find that hard to believe. Whatever. The last system to give any kind of attention to tonight is this Antec case system right here. My 2005 system. This thing is an Athlon 64 single core. The Athlon 64 4000. This is the machine that I built after the Silver Bullet died of capacitor plague. This is the machine that I built to run Elder Scrolls Oblivion. It doesn't even have an optical drive, needs a power supply, that won't be too hard to come by here. It at least has a fan, 120 millimeter. The power button is all screwed up, so you gotta check this case out. And, well, I don't even think the front of the case is on the... Where'd the USB ports go? Are they still in there? Yeah, they're not like they're all that useful from the looks of it. Athlon. Yeah, there's nothing left in there but pins. So the front USB is completely kaput. This case, though, I remember... I don't like how that feels. I remember this case when you had a mechanical drive in here, it sounded like a coffee percolator because of the acoustics of the case. But at least it supported 120 millimeter fans, which is more than I could say for the Silver Bullets case. There was a time when I was jealous of what this thing had in it. It's so broken. Of course, the little hinge that closes right here is long gone, so doesn't stay closed. It flies open at the slightest little thing. I don't know if there's a way we can fix that. Maybe with some hot glue, but either way, maybe some paper clips, some duct tape, and some hot glue. We'll figure something out. I don't know. Maybe just paper clips and duct tape. Anyways, the last time I did anything with this computer, this is actually from the Thanksgiving 2006 thing as well, but I had my HP stuff in there at the time. The last time I did anything with this computer, I think the graphics card was dead. The fun thing about the Asus motherboard I have in this thing, assuming it still works, is that you can hook up a pair of speakers to the onboard audio for error codes. It actually tells you what's wrong with the system. So let's put a power supply in this thing, and this is the weakest system I have. It's not going to require crap for wattage. But let's put a power supply in this thing, and let's see if that's still the case. I'll bet it is, assuming the thing even still starts up. Haven't started this thing in how long? There's the old piece of junk right there. Stock cooler from the Athlon 64. Asus motherboard, the A8N Sly Premium. I think the board still works. This is the big reason why I went back to Asus for Monolith. An old Asus graphics card too, pre-GeForce GT whatever. Cables, the Molexes are yellowing. Here's the 3-speed selector switch for the fan, which I hope is still set. Yep, it's set to high. See, LMH. Good. We want it on high mode anyways. Does this thing even have... No, it's Molex powered. You know what? We're already going to make improvements to this thing that it doesn't deserve. We're going to put in a fractal design fan. Is there a place to plug it in on the motherboard? Any headers whatsoever. This is from the original serial ATA. Yes, there is. Chassis fan right there. Good. Let's get a fractal design in this thing. Update it at least that much. Or put a cooler master. I don't care. I just want to see this thing not boot, because I know it's not going to, because I think that graphics card is done for. Showstopper. We can't proceed any further. So, this power supply right here is the Enermax 430, the last power supply from the Silver Bullet, which dates it circa early 2000s, the capacitor plague era, and I am not too thrilled about trying to use it again. Does not have enough pins to take up the main thing on the motherboard, so we're short 4. It's an old 20, not a 24. The auxiliary will plug in, and interestingly enough, it will get power if the device is turned on. Device, I mean the power supply. Ooh, the light's dimmed when I turn that on. Not a good sign. But we can push the mushy power button, and things start spinning. Interesting. The video card's spinning too. And there's the VGA failure, although quite frankly, if we hooked up something we could hear it talk. Let's do that. Now we get to the fun part of this motherboard, and why I'm a big fan of Asus motherboards in the first place. Get a little bit of static over the onboard sound with no power going to it. You got the Boston can speaker there. Let's see if we get an error code. Come on. Doesn't take that long to count up 1.5 gigs of RAM. It posts now. Cute. Come on.
No keyboard detected.
No keyboard detected. It's interesting that this thing is working now. Yeah, well, let's pull the card out anyways. Let me show you the error message for when there's no graphics card. But it's cute that the motherboard talks to you over the onboard sound when you're trying to troubleshoot it. So if you don't want to look through the manual for what the beep codes are, then whatever. The card is an Asus GeForce GT, no, 9600 GT from a long, long time ago. It's so old. Oh, it does have HDMI. Ooh, luxury. Maybe I could keep this around. Takes up only one spot. Takes up only one spot on the back of the board. Still has VGA. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think what I'm going to end up doing is putting the Radeon 5K in here. That doesn't require any external power, and maybe that one will be a little more reliable. Now let's hear it screw up, because it doesn't have a video card. This is what I was getting the last time I tried running it. By the way, Cooler Master. Got a bunch of those 120s with nothing to do with them, so might as well use them.
System failed VGA test.
System failed VGA test. And I think if I leave it running, it's eventually going to say that again. It may even do the beep code again. But at least it's not...
No keyboard detected.
Oh, there's no keyboard either.
No, really? Nothing's hooked up, madame. We have main power, sort of, and auxiliary for the processor, and that's about it.
Not to mention, both of these power supplies have goose egg support for serial ATA, so I would have needed to use adapters to get modern drives working for them anyways. Oh, you mean like those things? Still has a floppy drive, much like its... Yeah. Anyways, I think the only hope for this thing would be to buy one of those cases that comes with a crappy power supply, just make sure it can support a basic system like this, and move everything into a new case and give this thing a new name. This system doesn't have a new name. Or, excuse me, this system doesn't have an actual name. I could call it Silver Bullet 2, but this case is horrible. I could call it Silver Bullet 2, because that's what it originally was, but it was in a different case under that name. Under a, well, different Antec case. I've since junked it. This case is as good as junk anyways. Really nice. It was ahead of its time, like these rubber thingies, which are now drying out for lowering disk vibration from the hard drives and things like that. But, at this point, I think the best thing to do would be get a cheap case, and if it's a black case, like so many cases are out there these days, call it mid-noughts or something, because that's when it was built. The mid-noughts, according to those across the pond. And of course, the 2000s are sometimes called the noughts. Well, the Boston speaker's not making any more noise, so yeah, let's disconnect everything and make up some kind of plan of attack for this thing, because if I junk the case though, I wonder if I can disconnect the PC speaker to put it in Monolith. It's either going to be case or power supply.
What will happen? Only time will tell.
It doesn't even need to support power headers. It just needs to be a cheap piece of junk that'll run a computer that's a relic at this point anyways. What am I going to do with an Athlon 64 4000 and 1.5 gigs of RAM? Put XP back on it? This might be a good period piece PC for XP. I know some people build their XP gaming rigs for retro gaming and old XP games. Hey, you know, maybe this would run Morrowind really... No. Who am I kidding? I originally built this for Oblivion, but, or I could be a total cheeseball about it and just get a power supply that has some modern plugs on it. I think maybe the Silver Bullet might need one too. Decisions. Anywho, that mess can wait for another day. A day when I feel more like tinkering with old computers, as opposed to enjoying the new one I just built. Whatever. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.